Hey everyone. I don't even know where to start, honestly. Maybe with the moment my whole world turned into a bad soap opera and I was the fool nobody warned. My name's Milton. Yeah, laugh it up, not a cool name like Brad or Jake. Milton, the dependable, boring guy who thought loyalty actually mattered anymore. I'm 39 and I live just outside of Kansas City. Pretty regular life. Nice two-story house, golden retriever, a wife who used to light up every room she walked into, emphasis on used to. Her name's Odessa. Yeah, Odessa. She always said she was born to be bigger than this town. Maybe I should have known back then. Odessa worked at a mid-sized import-export company. Nothing glamorous, but she talked about it like she was running the next Fortune 500 giant. She lived for those business trips. I stayed behind, walking the dog, fixing leaky faucets, thinking we were just paying our dues. Then came the trip. She rushed around the house that morning, stuffing things into her expensive leather suitcase, the one I bought her last Christmas. I noticed it wasn't her usual blazers and pencil skirts she was packing. This time, it was silk, lace, satin, tags still hanging. Stuff I hadn't seen her wear for me in years. I asked her, half joking, big presentation or something? She flashed me a tight smile. Gotta impress the investors, she said, slamming the suitcase shut before I could get a better look. Investors, huh? Investors who appreciated luxury lingerie? I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. Because the alternative, the sinking feeling in my gut, was too disgusting to admit to myself. I helped her load the suitcase into her car. Kissed her forehead. Watched her speed away down our street like she was racing away from something. Later that day, I noticed she had left her laptop on the kitchen counter, open and humming. Curiosity isn't just a cat killer, it kills marriages too. The first thing I saw wasn't an email or a work file. It was a text thread. Odessa, bringing the treats you like, winking face, see you tonight, Mr. Congressman. My stomach dropped through the floor. A politician. A damn politician. Not just any sleazy businessman. A public figure. Someone who smiled at voters and kissed babies while setting up private meetings with married women like mine. I stood there, just frozen. There was a hole in my chest where my heart used to be. And then I did something I'm not proud of. I started planning. I didn't explode right away. I didn't call her, didn't drive after her like some crazed movie character. I just stood there in my kitchen, staring at the glowing screen like it could somehow rewrite itself if I waited long enough. But it didn't. And with every second ticking by, the reality kept burning deeper into my mind. She left me. She left us for some political puppet who probably had a whole parade of Odessas lined up behind him. I sat down at the kitchen table right next to the laptop and just thought. I thought about our wedding day, how she looked at me like I was the only man in the world. I thought about the years of building this life together, working late shifts, tightening budgets, cheering each other on through every stupid little milestone. It felt like it all meant nothing to her now. But if she wanted to throw it all away, I wasn't going to stand in her path. No. I was going to let her walk right off that cliff, and I was going to make sure when she hit the bottom she realized she had burned every bridge back. The next few hours were cold and methodical. I logged into all our joint accounts, checking, savings, investment portfolios, the emergency credit cards I had quietly set up for us years ago. She didn't know it, but I was the one who handled every password reset, every security measure. It was all under my email, my number. In less than 15 minutes, I had frozen the joint bank accounts, rerouted the automatic payments, and locked the investment portfolios behind layers of two-factor authentication she couldn't crack if her life depended on it. I changed the passwords to our shared cloud drive where all her important work documents lived. Spoiler alert, half of those files were half-finished startup ideas and marketing proposals that she loved to brag about but never really developed. Now they were encrypted and hidden. She could explain that to her investors. I wasn't done. I moved to her home network. Odessa was always careless with technology, trusted it blindly. I accessed the router, wiped her laptop remotely, and locked her out of every single subscription we shared. Spotify, Netflix, Amazon Prime, even the stupid yoga app she downloaded last New Year's and never used again. Gone. By the time the sun set, Odessa officially had no money, no files, no streaming services, no backup plans. She left with a suitcase full of lingerie. And when she came crawling back, she was going to find out that's all she had left. I sat back in my chair, exhausted but weirdly calm. For the first time in months, I wasn't worrying about whether she was lying to me, whether she still loved me, whether I was enough. No. Now, I had the answer, and I had taken back the only thing I still controlled, my own self-respect. I didn't know exactly how it would all play out, but I knew Odessa was in for the rudest awakening of her life, and I intended to watch it happen, brick by brick, without lifting a finger. Almost on cue, my phone buzzed. It was Odessa. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the button, wondering whether I should answer. I didn't. I put the phone down, leaned back, and smiled for the first time all day. The game had just begun. The first missed call came around midnight, then another, then texts. The messages started polite. "Hey babe, can you check the account? I think something's wrong." By 2 a.m., they turned frantic. "Travis, where's the money? My card's being declined. What's going on?" I read every word without replying. Each text was like a cold glass of water dousing the remnants of any affection I still felt for her. Around 4 a.m., she finally called, and for some reason, this time I answered. I guess I wanted to hear the panic in her voice. "Travis, oh my God, everything's messed up. I'm stuck at this stupid hotel, and they're saying my corporate card's not working either. Did the bank mess something up?" she cried. I let her spin for a moment. Then, calmly, I said, "You should ask your congressman boyfriend for help. Maybe he can buy you breakfast." Dead silence. I could hear her breathing, heavy, staggered, like she'd just been slapped across the face by reality. What are you talking about?" she stammered. "I saw the texts, Odessa," I said. "I know everything. Hope that suitcase full of lingerie was worth it. Because you just burned your whole life down for a sleazy handshake and a hotel room." She started crying, hard, pleading with me. "Travis, it's not what you think. I had to go. It's business. He's just helping our company secure funding. You're overreacting." I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. That deep, bitter laugh you let out when you realize someone thinks you're still dumb enough to believe them after all the lies. "Save it," I said. "The accounts are locked. The house? It's in my name. The utilities? All me. Your credit cards? Cancelled. Good luck, Odessa. Hope love letters and cheap hotel sheets can keep you warm." I hung up, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I slept like a baby. The next morning, I made some coffee, fed the dog, and started packing a few of her things into boxes. It was weird, peaceful, almost therapeutic. Every blouse I folded, every high heel I dropped into a box, was one less piece of her infecting the life I still had left. Around noon, a knock came at the door. I knew exactly who it was, and I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I opened the door just wide enough to see her face. Makeup smudged, eyes puffy, clothes wrinkled like she hadn't slept. And for a second, just a second, the man I used to be almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the texts, the lies, the suitcase stuffed with lingerie for another man. And whatever pity I had left vanished into thin air. She tried to step inside, but I blocked the doorway with my arm. "Travis, please," she whimpered. "Can we just talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, sipping my coffee like we were neighbors chatting about the weather. "Talk about what, Odessa? About how you sold out everything we built for a few empty promises from a guy who won't even remember your name by next month." Her bottom lip trembled. "It's not like that. He said he could help the company. He said." I cut her off. "He said a lot of things, I'm sure. While you were modeling your company-saving wardrobe for him, right?" She winced, like the words physically hit her. "Good. Let them hurt." She started crying harder, reaching out like she thought she could just erase everything with a few tears and a guilty hug. "Please, Travis, I made a mistake. I was scared. You don't understand the pressure I was under at work." I stepped back and shook my head. "You were scared? Scared of what? Losing a job you hated? Missing a promotion that probably wasn't even real? Scared enough to humiliate me in our own home, to risk everything we had together?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked small, powerless, exactly the opposite of the woman who had strutted out of here just 2 nights ago like she was headed for a victory parade. I set the box of her clothes down at her feet. "There's your stuff. You've got 20 minutes to get what's yours. After that, I'm changing the locks." "Travis, please," she whispered again, her voice breaking. I have nowhere to go. Not my problem, I said simply. Maybe your congressman friend can book you another room. She just stood there, sobbing as I closed the door in her face. I didn't watch her through the window. I didn't peek to see if she stayed or drove away. I made another cup of coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and started making a list of everything else in my life that needed cleaning up. And for the first time in years, I realized something. I wasn't the one who had failed. She was. And she didn't deserve a second chance. The 20 minutes I gave her passed like nothing. When I opened the door again, Odessa was still standing there, crumpled at the bottom of the steps, clutching the box I'd left for her like it was her last lifeline. The car she'd taken for the trip, our second car, technically under my name, was already parked awkwardly at the curb. She must have gotten a ride back after whatever disaster had unfolded with her congressman lover. Good. I wasn't about to ask. That's it, I said, holding the door open just long enough. Anything else you leave behind is trash now. She tried one more time, pushing her luck like she always did. Can I just come inside and explain? Please? I made a huge mistake, Travis, but you can't just erase everything we've been through. I actually laughed, a cold, hollow laugh that didn't feel like it belonged to me. Funny, I said, because that's exactly what you did. Packed it into a suitcase full of lingerie and handed it to someone else. She flinched, her mouth twisting into a silent sob. I wasn't going to let her spin a new fairy tale. I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. We stood there, just a few feet apart, but it felt like an ocean had opened between us. An ocean she had gladly jumped into with both feet. You chose this, I said. My voice wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. Empty. You made your bed, Odessa. Now go lie in it. Somewhere else. I turned around and walked back inside without waiting for a response. I locked the door. Bolted it. Pulled down the shades. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't care what she thought or felt. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. She wasn't my burden to carry. Later that night, she tried calling again. And again. And again. I turned off my phone. By the next morning, her messages shifted from begging to bargaining. Promises of therapy. Vows to cut off all contact with the politician. Pleas to rebuild what we had. She even offered to sign whatever papers I wanted just to prove she was sorry. It was too late. Way too late. I had already called a lawyer, a friend of mine from college who handled messy situations like this with precision. By noon, the divorce papers were in motion. Filed. Official. Cold. I didn't even need to explain much. One screenshot of her messages was all the proof I needed. She thought she could use tears to erase betrayal. She didn't realize that some betrayals are so deep no apology can ever reach them. The old Travis might have clung to hope. Might have swallowed his pride just to avoid being alone. But the man I was becoming? He was done letting himself be the safe choice, the doormat, the backup plan. Odessa had gambled everything and lost. And she was about to find out just how brutal reality could be when you no longer had someone to catch you. A few days passed, and Odessa must have realized that no matter how many times she called, texted, or emailed, I wasn't going to budge. Because that's when she switched strategies. One afternoon, after ignoring yet another flood of messages from her, I heard a knock at the door again. Not frantic this time, calculated. I knew better than to open it without checking first. I peeked through the window and saw her standing there, dressed neatly, makeup carefully applied, like she thought she could pretty her way back into my life. Old Odessa would have gotten through to me. This version of me? Not a chance. I opened the door just enough to hear her without inviting her in. She gave me a tight, fake smile. Travis, can we be adults about this? We need to talk, seriously. I crossed my arms. Nothing left to talk about. She sighed dramatically, as if I were the unreasonable one. Look, I know I screwed up, but you don't want to throw away everything over one mistake. People forgive worse things than this. We had years together. History. Real love. That word love sounded so cheap coming out of her mouth now. You didn't throw away love, I said, keeping my voice even. You sold it. To the highest bidder. Don't come to me talking about love when you packed it in a suitcase next to your lingerie. Her cheeks flushed red, whether from anger or shame, I didn't know. Probably both. She took a step closer, voice lowering. Travis, I need you to listen. He's done with me, okay? It's over. He said it was never serious, that it was just fun, and that I was too much trouble after everything happened. He made promises he never intended to keep. I see that now. I see what I lost. I stared at her for a long moment, taking in the words she probably rehearsed 100 times in her car before knocking. I'm not your consolation prize, Odessa, I said finally. You made your choice. Now live with it. Her face crumpled. For a moment I thought she might scream. Instead, she dropped her voice into a desperate whisper. I have nothing, Travis. No job. No money. I can't even get into my email accounts anymore. Everything's gone. I wanted to feel bad. I really did. But I didn't. Because she didn't feel bad when she was lying to me. She didn't feel bad when she checked into that hotel room with someone else. She only felt bad now because her backup plan, me, wasn't there to catch her fall. You should have thought about that before you traded your marriage for one night in a hotel, I said. Then I closed the door on her again, slower this time, so she could feel it. Behind the door, I stood there for a long time, my heart racing, my hands shaking slightly, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sense of relief. It was over. Whatever Odessa was going to do next, wherever she was going to crash and burn, it wasn't going to be my problem anymore. And for the first time in years, my future actually felt like it was mine again. The days after that final door slam were eerily quiet. No more knocks. No more late-night texts. No more desperate voicemails begging for another chance. For a while, I thought maybe she had finally given up, accepted the consequences, and moved on to leech off someone else. But Odessa wasn't the type to just disappear. Not when there was still a stage left to perform on. It was a Saturday morning when the first signs of her real meltdown arrived. I was walking the dog through the neighborhood when I saw her sitting in her car, parked 2 streets over, just far enough to keep an eye on the house without being obvious. She looked rough. Hair unwashed, face pale, staring at the steering wheel like it had betrayed her too. I didn't acknowledge her. I didn't even break my stride. Let her sit there. Let her stew in the mess she made. Later that afternoon, I started getting calls from mutual friends, the ones who hadn't already taken my side once everything came out. Messages loaded with half-hearted concern. Hey man, just checking in. Odessa's saying you locked her out and froze her accounts. Are you okay? Odessa told me she's homeless now. Are you sure you're handling this the right way? Translation: Odessa's crying to anyone who'll listen, trying to paint herself as the victim. I didn't even bother responding. Anyone who truly knew us, knew me, wouldn't need an explanation. But she wasn't done yet. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, pages long. She poured out every excuse in the book. Childhood trauma. Pressure at work. Feeling unseen at home. Regret. Love. Apologies so detailed they almost felt scripted, like she Googled how to apologize when you destroy your marriage. At the very end, she wrote, Please, Travis. I'm begging you. Let's rebuild. We can be stronger. I have nothing without you. I folded the letter neatly, dropped it straight into the shredder, and listened to the whir of blades chew through every word she thought would save her. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she had to face the world without a safety net. And I refused to be her backup plan. Meanwhile, life without her got easier every single day. The house felt lighter, brighter. I played music in the kitchen while I cooked dinner for myself. Took long drives without having to check in. Slept across the whole bed without worrying about cold shoulders and colder silences. And with every little moment of peace, every small freedom reclaimed, I realized something bigger. She didn't just betray me. She freed me. She stripped away every illusion I had about who she was, what we had, and what I deserved. Odessa thought she destroyed my life. But really? She handed it back to me. Months passed. Seasons changed. The leaves turned golden and the air grew crisp, but for the first time in years, I wasn't watching life pass me by through a fog of anxiety and suspicion. I was living it. Really living it. I finalized the divorce quietly. Cleanly. No messy battles, no drawn-out negotiations. She didn't have the resources to fight, not without access to my accounts, not without leverage she thought she would always have. The papers were signed, filed, and stamped. I was free. Legally, emotionally, spiritually free. At first, I didn't know what to do with all the empty space in my life. No angry texts accusing me of working too late. No cold shoulders over imaginary slights. No scrambling to prove I was enough. Instead, there were quiet mornings with a cup of coffee on the back porch, the sun rising slowly over a world that didn't demand apologies from me for simply existing. Instead of dragging around dead weight, I poured my energy into things I loved. I grew my business without the constant guilt trips. I traveled to places we had once planned to visit someday, but that she never really meant. I reconnected with old friends, the ones she had subtly pushed away because they didn't fit into her polished social media image. And somewhere along the way, something amazing happened. I stopped thinking about her. Stopped replaying the betrayal. Stopped wondering what I could have done differently. Because the truth was, the betrayal said everything about her and nothing about me. The life I was rebuilding wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about bitterness. It was about freedom. About refusing to let one broken, selfish person define my story. And just when I least expected it, when I wasn't looking or forcing or rushing, someone new walked into my life. Someone who didn't care about status or money or flashy public appearances. Someone who laughed without calculating how it looked. Someone who didn't see me as a stepping stone, but as a partner. It's funny how life works. You think you're losing everything when really you're just being cleared for something better. As for Odessa? Last I heard, she bounced from couch to couch, chasing jobs that never quite worked out, chasing relationships that fizzled faster than they started. Still searching for the next quick fix, the next ladder to climb. But that's not my story anymore. Not my problem. Not my burden. I'm building a life rooted in honesty, in peace, in real partnership. And every morning when I wake up, take a breath of clean air, and feel nothing but gratitude, I silently thank the universe for the worst night of my life. Because without it, I would have never found the best life waiting just on the other side.